Hi all, and welcome back. One topic that quite a few of you have asked me to explain is the noon sight, so that's what I'm going to be covering in this video. As with my other videos, I am showing the practical method of obtaining the position. There's already plenty of videos out there explaining the mathematics for anyone that wants to go into it in more detail. Firstly, the term noon position, when used in relation to celestial fixing, is usually used to refer to the taking of a sight of the sun when it is at its highest point in the sky. If we were to stand in one position on land, we would see the sun move across the sky until it was directly north or south of our position. If you've watched old Wild West movies, you'll have heard the phrase high noon, which prior to accurate timekeeping was actual noon at any given position. With the advent of accurate methods of timekeeping, high noon fell out of fashion, and we developed 24 different time zones for the Earth. As such, unless you're exceptionally lucky, high noon, or MERPASS, will never occur at noon within the time zone. So that was a very rough explanation of what MERPASS is. MERPASS can be used for a number of celestial bodies, but is most commonly used for the Sun due to the requirement of being able to see the horizon in order to use the sextant. So what makes MERPASS special? Without going into any of the complicated mathematics, as the body is true north or south of our position, we can throw all the complicated calculations out the window and remove the need to obtain multiple lines of positions to obtain our latitude. There are a couple of practical methods of calculating position at MERPASS. The method I am showing does not require you to have any knowledge of your present position. To use this method, we take our sextant and continuously take a sight of the celestial body. Once it reaches its highest altitude, noted by the reading starting to decrease, we note the highest reading and the time that it occurred. As I already mentioned, it's unlikely to occur at noon within your time zone, but will usually fall within an hour or two of it, so you have a rough idea of when to start taking your sight. So let's get started with our example. So we know that it's the 10th of April, 2016, and we're drifting somewhere in the North Atlantic. Using our sextant, we have been taking sights of the Sun's lower limb, and determined its maximum altitude was 62 degrees, 56.8 minutes, which occurred at 13, 49 and 50 seconds UTC. This figure was obtained from our sextant and is termed the sextant altitude of the Sun. Before we are able to use it to obtain our latitude, we need to correct it to obtain the true altitude of the Sun. In order to do this, I have provided a handy Proforma Sheet for MERPASS, which you can download from my website. The link is in the video description. If you've followed my earlier videos, the steps for converting sextant altitude to true altitude may be familiar, as they're also on my intercept Proforma Sheet. Index error is the uncorrected error of your sextant. In most cases, unless you have dropped the sextant previously, this should be 0. Our observed altitude is the sextant altitude, corrected for index error. In our case, the index error was 0, therefore our observed altitude is the same as the sextant altitude. Next, we have to correct for our height above sea level, which is commonly referred to as dip on both my Proforma and in the Nautical Almanac. You should already know your height above sea level. If not, you'll have to work it out separately. It's good practice to always take your sights from the same position, so that your height of eye above sea level is always the same. In this example, we are 20 meters above sea level. To obtain the correction, we consult table A2 at the front of the Nautical Almanac, where we obtain the value of 7.9. If your height of eye is not an exact value, as shown in the table, then you will have to interpolate between the values for your actual height of eye. When we subtract the dip from our observed altitude, we obtain the assumed altitude, which is referred to as apparent altitude in the British Admiralty Nautical Almanac. As our calculation is for the Sun, we only require the values for the TC and arc row. In the case of the TC correction, we obtain this value from table A2, located at the front of the Nautical Almanac, and it is titled Altitude Correction Tables 10 to 90 degrees. Looking at the Sun table, you'll see it split in half based on which month it is. As it's April, we look at the rightmost column of the table and we find our assumed altitude in the table. When working with this particular table, there is no need to interpolate, and we obtain the correction value of 15.5 for the Sun's lower limb. The sun's lower limb is always added, whereas if we were using the sun's upper limb, we would subtract. Lastly comes the correction for non-standard conditions, which are contained in table A4, also at the front of the Nautical Almanac. Hopefully this table is self-explanatory, where using your current temperature and air pressure, you enter the graph at the top of the page and obtain the column to use. You then enter the table below the graph and take the correction value from the table for the apparent altitude of the body. In our case, we fell within column G, so our correction is 0. Now that we know the corrections, we apply these to our assumed altitude, which gives us the true altitude of the Sun as 63 degrees 04.4 minutes. The last stage is to obtain the declination of the Sun at the given time. So we turn to the daily page for the 10th of April 2016 in the Nautical Almanac. We look down the Sun column and at 1300 UTC we obtain the declination of the Sun, which is north 8 degrees 13.6 minutes. We also make a note of the D correction value at the bottom of the column, which is 0.9. As it was 13:49 at the time of our observation, we have to correct for the 49 minutes. So we turn to the yellow pages at the back of the almanac and find the page for 49 minutes. We read off the correction for 0.9, which is 0.7. which we add to the declination, giving us the actual declination of north 8 degrees 14.3 minutes. Finally, to obtain the latitude, we look at the bottom table on our proforma, where we see that there is a different formula depending on our latitude. But we're working out our latitude, so how do we know which formula to use? So hopefully we know what hemisphere we're in. So if we know that we're in the northern hemisphere and our declination was south, we use the bottom formula, as the latitude and declination are considered to be named opposite. The same would apply if we were in the southern hemisphere and our declination was north. The other two formulas exist because what we do will be different depending on if we're in the tropics or not. We said we didn't know our latitude, but if you have a rough idea of what it is, then it's easy enough. If not, then a simple way of deciding if your latitude is less than your declination is to look at the sun. If from where you're standing, you're looking towards the equator, when looking at the sun, then your latitude is greater than the declination. If you're looking towards the north, when looking at the sun, in the northern hemisphere, then your latitude is probably less than the declination. In our case, the declination is less than the latitude, so we use the top formula. We take our declination, subtract the true altitude, and add 90 degrees. Which gives us our latitude of 35 degrees 09.9 minutes north. So that's how to obtain your latitude from the sun using the MERPASS method. Join me next time where I'll explain a method of working out your approximate longitude at the time of MERPASS. If you found this video useful, please hit the like button. My publishing schedule is a bit random due to my sea trips, so don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to be notified whenever I post a new video in my Merchant Navy how-to series. Until next time, safe sailing.